Hello, welcome back. We are four struggling filmmakers. My name's Emma. Joining me is Jimmy.
Hi guys.
James.
Hello.
And Noah.
Hi everyone.
Just before we go any further, make sure you are subscribed so that you can be notified every time we post new content. So, film recommendations. So I happened to stumble across this film on Netflix, which I think is amazing, which is a shame because it would have been good for last week, but it's called The Perfection. And I literally won't say anything because you have to watch it, and anything I say will give it away, but I can tell you it's about two celloists. Is that how you say it? Two people who play the cello, and it's really cool.
So I'm only about, I think, 3 or 4 years late to this, but Ash versus the Evil Dead TV series. If you like the Evil Dead, it gives you exactly what you would want. More Bruce Campbell. It's hilarious. It does everything up to 11. I've just got on to series 2. It's obviously got a massive budget injection. The Oldsmobile's in it. Really good fun time. Great to watch. Nothing heavy at all in it. Lots of fun gore. Lots of quippy one-liners. Just really nice. I was going to say relaxing watching. It's not really relaxing, but it's a good time.
So as we're on recommendations at the moment, I'm gonna use this opportunity for me to plug my film Twitter. Yes, that's right. I talk about films elsewhere too. So for the month of March, I've decided to watch a film a day for every letter of the alphabet. And for the past 2 days, as of this recording, I watched Akira and I watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And today I watched Clerks. All very different kinds of films. Akira was fantastic. Bill and Ted was amazing. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I thought it was hilarious and right up my street. And Clerks I thought was okay. So if you're interested in hearing more films that are alphabetically ordered on my film Twitter, the handle is @jharrison_films. It's on screen here. Emma can edit this in. So, and I also talk about other films like on other days as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be themed, but it's just whatever films I've seen, I usually like to do a quick review on. So if that seems like something you'd be interested in, give us a like, give us a follow. And films, yeah.
The link will be in the description along with our four struggling filmmakers social medias as well. So check it all out and you'll be able to find everything you need. That brings us round to our main topic, which is what?
This week, we are discussing some popular films that we don't like very much.
So yeah, it's an opinion piece this week on critically acclaimed films that we didn't think deserved the fame.
Ooh.
And we're going to be kick-started off with Jimmy Bennett.
What better place to start talking about popular films we hate than often rated the greatest film of all time, despite the fact it's a long, boring, uninspired snooze fest. Yes, that's right. It's the Shawshank Redemption. I'm going to say it anyway. Or as I like to call it, the Shawwank Redemption. 1994, Frank Darabont. That's right, isn't it? Adapted from Stephen King's short book. Where to start with this film? I'm going to start at the ending because that's logical. The ending of this film is really frustrating. Frank Darabont, when he was working the script with whoever else worked on the script, they were basically just going to use the ending that's in the book. The ending in the book, it ends with Morgan Freeman, on the bus. I don't know what I did there. On the bus to go meet up with Andy. And he's talking about hope because every 5 minutes in that film somebody talks about hope, and then we never find out whether he meets up with Andy Dufresne again. That's a nice, ambiguous ending. If the film ended that way, I probably wouldn't hate this film so much. And Frank Darabont was like, yeah, that's a really nice way to end the film. And then the producers were like, no, what are you talking about? And so we're left with stupidly out of place, overly Hollywood shot of Andy Dufresne like sanding a boat as Morgan Freeman comes up to him in Mexico. Anyway, that's one of my gripes. Andy Dufresne, what can we say about him? He's really, really like uninspired. You're meant to like this guy just because he's smart. You know, he has horrible things happen to him for no reason. He's got no agency in many ways as a protagonist. He kind of does. I mean, he digs his way out. And then we just watch him slowly dig out of a prison over the next 30 years and do somebody's taxes. It's so overly rated. Look, I'm not saying it's a terrible film. It's not. It's well acted, although uninspiringly. It's well directed. I think the script has problems, but it it's serviceable. It's not near the top of the greatest films of all time. It's just not for me. Arctic was a better film about the triumph of man and survival against all odds. No, I honestly believe that. There's really good moments in Shawshank Redemption, but far overrated.
How can you hate a film that has Morgan Freeman in it? However, you are correct in the fact that you view it as a bad film, and so did a lot of others, as it was a huge disappointment at the box office.
Yeah, I think it's not. I don't hate it. I don't think it's a bad film. It's just massively overrated. It baffles me why so many people think it's the greatest film ever. But let's go to Noah, because I think he's got something to say.
Yeah, so it's been well over a decade since I've seen this. I don't remember much resonating with me from a younger age. However, I do remember quite enjoying the ending. I did like it. It's a nice ending. Was that the original book ending? Do you know? Or
no, the book ending, it just ends with him on the bus on the way.
I guess that is a bit unfortunate that they did that, but I did also like the. I found it quite sad. Was it Brooks' character? Is that what he's called?
Yeah, no.
Where he he can't adapt in society and he ends up hanging himself. That's sad, if I remember.
It's a really good moment, but what does it have to do with Andy Dufresne's journey? It's like, if this was a TV series, I think it works to some degree. I think if it was a TV series or miniseries, you could get away with that. It's basically a B plot, isn't it? It's the same with this. The film, it puts too much in itself. Just as you get to a point where we've got a little bit of there's something vaguely interesting about Andy Dufresne, they just make him completely white bread, shortcut. Not sure either of those were phrases. American average man.
Although I do agree, it probably isn't one of the top 50 films or whatever. I feel like you kind of hate it because of those people liking it, and they kind of elevated it up to that.
Yeah, no, I think I hate the fact that it takes so much limelight when there are, in my opinion, superior films that get far less recognition.
Mr. Jimbo, Shawshank Redemption is it's one of my faves, unfortunately. So I do quite like it quite a lot. All of the points that you mentioned in your argument, I can kind of rebuttal to a point, because you can only rebuttal so far without it becoming just opinion rather than just what you think of the film, really. So my main issue is you don't like Andy Dufresne as a character, and I can kind of see that. It's mainly because I don't think Tim Robbins brings a lot to his performance. It's very sort of one note throughout. He doesn't really emote higher than it needs to. Everything seems very flat with his character, which is fine, but as a character, I think he's really good. Another point, the ending, I feel makes sense. It is a bit studio-y and here's the happy ending of everyone, being together, which is another thing I'll get onto my film later, which I hate. You have Andy Dufresne, and he goes through his entire thing. I can even agree with the B plots. They all service the whole theme of the film, but they don't necessarily fit all together, because this film is really long. Yeah. I like it, but it can be cut out or done another way. It's just that with the ending, you can give closure to our main character, Andy Dufresne, but if you don't give that closure to Red as well, it kind of feels like you cheated out of it. And for him to just have it end, as you said, the book would, just him on a bus going to nowhere, it's not necessarily a happy ending. And I'm not saying that it needs to be a happy ending, because there's many films which don't necessarily need to service that feeling, but it's just sort of, it feels like a bit of a cop-out to be come find me at this place, and then and then you don't see that.
I completely get what you're saying, and obviously the studio agreed because they mandated that it's in there. But like, the thing is, the film is meant to be about hope. It's not meant to be about getting a happy ending, from what I know.
Again, as you said, it's the whole theme of the film. Hope is basically what the whole structure of Shawshank is based on. It reminded me when you were talking about that, like it would make it kind of like an opposite ending to The Graduate.
Yes.
Do you know The Graduate, how it ends and it's like, oh, and then they run off together and then they're on the back of the bus and they're just sort of like, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So it will be the inverse of that kind of ending where it's like, okay, I've done all of this, but now maybe I'm going towards something a bit better. So yeah, it's that hypothetical of like, what if it did end, but you could just turn off the film 30 best seconds before the end, and then you have that ending. Boom, there you go, fixed.
Yeah, I'll say two things. One of them is related to what we were just talking about, and the other is not. What were we just talking about? Oh yeah. Like heist movies and clever plot twists and things that'll appeal to you. That sort of stuff has never appealed to me, and that is a personal taste. I'm very glad the Shawshank Redemption got made because it gave us some of the best parodies there has ever been. Like Robot Chicken's Batman and Joker Shawshank Redemption sketch is bloody hilarious, and you should go watch it. If you've not seen it, it's just like 5 minutes of pure hilarity. Starring Mark Hamill as the Joker and Tom Kane as Red's character, who is Black Manta. But the thing is, and this is a good place maybe to round it off, like or hate the Shawshank Redemption, it is an integral part of film culture and culture in general, wider culture. So, like I said earlier, if you haven't watched it, you do have to watch it. You will have an opinion about it, which is probably a sign that it's actually a good film, if I'm being honest. But there you go. This comes from years of studying film. I think there are far better films that get far less recognition. Particularly, final word. It is the epitome of Hollywood award-seeking, Oscar bait filmmaking. You know,
I think that applies to Noah's pick a bit more, if I'm being honest. But
what a brilliant.
Oh, that's a good segue, James. So, film I have chosen to hate, or chosen this week to hate, is the 2016 war film Hacksaw Ridge. Now, this is a film directed by Mel Gibson, and I just want to point out that my hatred of this film has nothing to do with Mel Gibson as a person. We all know about what he's like and what he's done in the past, so I just thought I'd get that out there. Nothing to do with him. It's about his dire filmmaking. Now, it's got Andrew Garfield in. He plays the lead. He plays a guy called Desmond Doss. Desmond Doss was a real person during the World War II, and he was a conscientious pacifist, religious guy who served for America in the war and didn't kill anyone. As far as war films go, it really doesn't add anything new to the genre. It's very melodramatic and over the top. It's very by the books. I think you can fit every generic war character in this. You've got Vince Vaughn's angry sergeant who just shouts at people. There's also a character in the boot camp, I remember, who sort of plays your stereotypical bully. And you got, I remember him picking on Desmond Doss at some point. You've got, I'm not sure what the message of the film is. I think it's anti-violent, but then it has all these, glamorous, glorifying battle scenes of blood splattering everywhere. There's even a part I remember where the blood splatters onto the camera lens, and I don't think any film in 2016 should be doing that, because that's something you do if you want to be like a student filmmaker. It's also not very subtle, so yeah, it's quite a Christian, which is, yeah, it's fine if it's like promoting the Christian agenda or whatever, but this is very unsubtle. Andrew Garfield, I don't think is very good in this, and he got an Oscar nomination for it. It also won a couple of Oscars, and it even got Best Picture nomination. What else do I hate about Sam Worthington? Is such a bad actor as well. I can't believe he's still getting roles. Saw this in the cinema, and when you see a war film in the cinema, you're like, oh wow, this is going to be so immersive. You've got the speakers blaring out. You're going to feel like you're really in a war. No, I didn't feel any of that. I felt like I was watching a rom-com or some sort of Frank Darabont movie.
Look, I think the war scenes are quite well directed and choreographed. I think certainly, I remember specific shots from this film. So, and I only saw it, I think, twice in the cinema. It does paint, at times, an accurate picture of the brutality of war. There's bits when the two sides clash together, and it's dirty, it's close up. There's some really good long takes just going up and down the battlefield. Thematically, it doesn't really have one note, I think. But at the same time, it's as blunt as a sledgehammer, hitting you with war is bad. It's 3 different films, isn't it? It's a courtroom drama for a little bit. It's a rom-com, and then Mel Gibson goes, "Hold on, I was meant to be making a war film."
Yeah, if you compare this to just any other World War II film, it was like, I guess Saving Private Ryan's considered one of the top ones.
With Hacksaw Ridge, I saw this film about 4 years ago, so it's not like too far away, but like I've had no reason to revisit it, and that's the reason why I don't really want to watch it. Like, there's no reason for me to go back to that film and be like, oh, that's why I liked it. Like, at the time, I thought it was fine. Like, it's a perfectly serviceable war film, but like it doesn't really attempt anything better. The story itself is a really interesting tale of like violence and war and stuff that could have been done interestingly in a better film, but here it's just done kind of just mellow and just safe. That's how I describe it. Really, really safe.
People say this is like the best war film. People say Shawshank's like the best prison drama. Like, there's just so many better films of those particular like genres you can watch. But if people want to enjoy this film, of course, pulling it realistic and them doing an overhead kick grinds my gears. How can you think that's a good film? Because the overhead kick, right? I think Pele did it. Pele was a footballer. We know him from like 50s, 60s and whatever. So by implementing him doing an overhead kick, it's basically saying Desmond Doss invented the overhead kick. A bit of a tangent there, a bit of a ridiculous tangent, but you get my point. It's stupid.
Kind of takes you out of it because it gets a bit too ridiculous.
Can you believe Andrew Garfield got an Oscar nom for that? When in the same year he didn't get a nomination for Silence, which, although I wasn't massive on Silence, I thought he had a much better sort of acting display.
Well, that probably says more about the politics involved in the Academy Awards than the actual quality of his acting. I thought his acting was very good in what film are we talking about? Hacksaw Ridge. Well, maybe it is quite forgettable.
So I think I eloquently put all my thoughts on why I hate that film. Hacksaw Ridge. I recommend nobody watches it. If you do want to watch it, by all means do it, but don't come complaining to me when you dislike it.
Moving to something which I think is worse than all of everyone's picks today. I think it should win the prize for the worst film ever made, personally. And I will explain why. I'll preface this by saying that some movies are made to be bad, and I think the movies that are made to be good but are bad are worse than the movies that were made to be bad. And I'll preface with that, and then I'll explain. So I've chosen The Revenant. Unfortunately, I watched it in the cinema, and I don't know how I didn't leave, to be honest. So it won 3 Oscars. It was Leonardo DiCaprio's first Oscar for Best Performance, and I think, wow, what's that about? He's had so many different roles with such poignant characters, and he wins it for this one. Like, as you were saying earlier, it's the politics of the Academy Awards, isn't it? But that's definitely for a later date. So yeah, it won Best Performance, Best Achievement in Directing, and Best Achievement in Cinematography. I don't know what he was directing because not a lot happens. It then went on to also have 87 various other wins and 187 various nominations. So critically, it is a good film.
Can you attempt to say his name in perfect Mexican Spanish, please?
Yes, so it is directed by Alejandro Inarritu.
Gonzalez.
Inarritu?
That's pretty spot on, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Alejandro
Inarritu.
Gonzalez Inarritu
That's perfect, I would say.
is the director, who's done some other films. It's not his best, I know.
He did Birdman.
He did
Birdman's
do
it's
Birdman.
a cracking film. I love it.
And I watched
That
his
one's
debut
also
the
on the
other day.
fence, but
Nah, don't start with this. All right, let's
Ooh.
focus on Revenant before I get mad.
yeah. So what is my main issue with The Revenant? My main issue with The Revenant is nothing happens. This is a revenge story, and the main theme is revenge, and it's done so poorly. So what I wrote, it starts off interesting and then moves into a badly told revenge story. It's a lot of nothing, and the trailer makes it look way better than it actually was. It's got pointless violence that should have been woven better into the narrative and the themes of the overarching film. It's not an opinion that's shared by loads of people because it receives 78% on Rotten Tomatoes and made a hell of a lot at the box office. It made $532 million. Some cool trivia, we'll give you a little fun fact. It is the first ever released film with the new 6.5K Arri Alexa 65. But that's the only fun fact about it.
You're the only one. I'm sure Jimmy has one.
The rest is 2 hours and 36 minutes of absolute torture. It's described as an action adventure. The most adventure I got was when I got up and left.
Ooh, sick burn.
Dang.
Shots fired.
The story was actually a myth. Like, it's quite a popular myth. And I was reading a review and someone phrased it that this was a myth before it became a film and should definitely have stayed that way.
Ooh.
I think I agree. How can I phrase it? I think you're dead right. I think it's a film that, again, tonally, not even tonally, this is a rubbish point. It changes, doesn't it? It starts off as a film about survival, and then the last sort of half an hour, 45 minutes about revenge. There's a bit in the middle where he has a religious epiphany at some point, doesn't he? With some American. God, I haven't seen this since the cinema either. Number one filmmaking or screenwriting rule for Jimmy is like pick a lane and stick to it. No, yeah. What are we meant to think as an audience? Like, you just in for one thing. You get a movie's worth of him being attacked by a bear, and then it's about him killing Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I'm not sure, like, as I was watching it, I wasn't sure what I was watching. Like,
No.
What story were they trying to tell? And you have these amazing actors like Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy, and I just think they were underused.
Yeah, particularly, I came away thinking Domhnall Gleeson should have had twice as much screen time, because
Absolutely.
subtly his performance in that film is bloody amazing.
Would you like to know someone who also probably didn't like the film by the end?
Hey.
The producers. And they were banned from set.
Really?
The film went 40 million over budget and took a year longer than it should have been, and the producers were eventually banned from set.
I didn't even know that could happen.
Wow, it's interesting that we're talking about The Revenant, especially after last week we were discussing Arctic, which was my choice, because they're both kind of survival films, and they're both films that Jimmy thought was all right and Emma didn't. Surprise, surprise. But I can definitely understand why it's not for everyone. Like, the pace of the film is very sluggish. And that is, it's reflected in the film itself, because Leonardo DiCaprio gets mauled by a bear and he basically has to cross a country just to find a dude and kill him. On a technical level, I really like it. Like, I really like the directing of this film. I think Inarritu is fantastic in basically everything that he does. But yeah, it's much like Noah and Jimmy. I saw this in the cinema back in early 2016, and it's another one of the it's good, but I'll never really watch it again. Like, I was this close to rewatching it for this week. It was available on my TV, and I saw it was 2.5 hours. I was like, nah, not doing that. Sorry.
I've seen a lot of Inarritu's films. I even saw his debut film the other day.
What's that?
Amores Perros, which
Yeah, I've
is
seen
very
that. I
good film.
studied that in college.
So did I, Jimmy. Calm down. Jeez.
it's interesting how his career's gone because he sort of made 3 of the same films, or sort of same similar ideas, like the whole sort of narrative of one. Something happens in the story, for example, Morris Perez, the car crash, and it affects 3 separate like storylines. But yeah, he's now gone off into this sort of he's Hollywood filmmaking. It's just he's probably like one of those successful Mexican, the 3 Mexican
Yeah, that's
directors that have
what I was
gone off to Hollywood now. Have
In
done
Del
well for
Toro
themselves.
and Alfonso Cuarón, wasn't it? Was the other two.
Mm.
But yeah, so that's basically me on the Revenant. I'd like to now take it, put it in a box, close the box, and then never think about it again.
Feed it to a bear.
Yeah.
And so that takes us on to James.
I'm not gonna look forward to the.
So I guess it leads on to me now for the final hated film of the day. It is a film which I first watched years ago now. I think it was like 2015. And it's one when I watched it and I saw it had good reviews, I was probably the most confused I've ever been because the film I'm talking about is 28 Days Later. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, that film's all right. You're wrong. Shut up. So 28 Days Later, if to those of you who aren't aware, it's a zombie film. It was probably one of the first modern zombie films in pop culture. Well, most of it was shot digitally, which is probably one of my main issues with the film. I think the story of the film is, even though it is one of the first modern zombie stories, it is as basic as you can get. Like, it's directed by Danny Boyle. It's directed by Danny Boyle, and this film is trash. I rewatched it the other day, and as I was watching it, I was like, I can appreciate more of the film than I did. It still doesn't mean it's good. Far from it, even. I just think it's not very well done in the slightest. Like, it has so many good ideas inside of the film that, like, when I watch it, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. And then I remember it's in this film and where it's going to end up. And then I just get sad. The digital camera aspect, it's all done on handheld digital cameras, which at the time was new tech. But has not aged in the slightest. It now looks like a BBC drama from 2003. So it just doesn't resonate with me at all because I feel like I'm watching like an old TV show. And it's just, the acting in it is from, like, you have big actors like Brendan Gleeson and Cillian Murphy. Well, they're big now, but like at the time they probably were a bit lesser. And Christopher Eccleston as well. And none of them were very good in it. Like, there's no, like, there's a few moments with Brendan Gleeson where I'm like, okay, I can see where he was going with that. But like, Cillian Murphy's such like a flat character. I described it as the highest budget student film ever made because it kind of gave me that vibe. They're trying to go for one thing. It's not really going very well. The zombies themselves in this film, they're fast, and that's why they're scary. But for most of the film, there's like barely any danger. There wasn't really any tension because they go off and have a picnic at one bit, and you just sort of like, what does this add? Another plot grievance. Oh god, fuck this film. So London, like, one of the big things about this film is it opens in London and London is empty. Like, they've closed down loads of streets to make this happen, and it's impressive feat in the fact that they managed to close down London just for a brief moment to get these shots. And it's very eerie, but like, for a film which establishes that like Manchester was bombed because it got out of control, London is just devoid of cars, dead people, and any carnage. Just like a few things have been chucked around. It's not done effectively. It has one of my biggest issues in any film ever. It uses stock sound effects at points, and they immediately take me out of any film I'm watching. And it's the ones where, like, you hear it and you're just sort of like, oh, come on.
Yeah,
like,
where it doesn't even match the atmosphere. It's like so
yeah, it's
studio
like at the beginning. Okay, so the main one that comes to my mind, there's a few, like there's a crashing sound at one point, but like the main one is the opening of the film where they use monkeys basically to say like, oh, we like, this is where the disease came from. It came from these infected monkeys, and it's got that monkey going and it's the sort of like, it's like, I've heard that like a million times. Just pick a new monkey sound. It's not difficult. The opening like the main zombie, the first one you see, other than like the stuff in the opening, is like the priest, and then you got Cillian Murphy. He's like, "Are you okay, Father?" And then he like hits him in the face. He's like, "Oh no, I shouldn't have done that." And he's just going like, "Ah!" You're going towards the screen. It's just, it has the whole final third act with the military, and the military in this film are obviously bad from the outset. It's such like a tropey thing where you just know that they're going to turn out to be like bad guys, and then the twist comes and you're like, what a surprise. I guess I didn't see that coming. And it's like, of course you fucking saw that coming.
How do you feel that it's credited with the revigoration of the zombie horror genre?
Listen, I'd agree.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I can agree with that too. I can agree that it revived zombies in a new and interesting way, kind of like how Twilight reinvigorated vampires.
Yeah.
I find your point about why you hate the digital really quite, I think it's quite stupid because, sorry, no, but like, I think it uses it well. I think when it's worth it when he's walking around London. I think like, you can't really hate it because of the limitations though of it. Like digital filmmaking was new at the time. You don't hate movies in 1940 because they're filmed in black and white.
Movies in 1940 look better than this film. I love the film, but I will agree that you're not the first person who's pointed that, and I completely agree that it does look horrific. It, like physically, it's just aged horribly. The digital, even on Blu-ray, you know, it's not like The Godfather where because it was shot on film, it's got more detail that you can remaster. Like it was shot on a 720p camera. You can't make it look any better because the information's not there. Yeah. And also it's definitely underexposed.
You can't complain about that though. It's just
yes, I can.
It's just a thing. It's just a thing that happens. You don't complain about the like audio in like those Italian films when they're dubbed, do you?
Okay.
Because it's just a part of the thing. It's just a part of it.
I got a counterpoint because I looked this up because I remember reading about it when I first watched the film. So the choice to use digital handheld cameras was intentional, obviously, but it was mainly because they're easier to film on because you can just go get a shot and do it rather than put all the film in of like a proper film camera.
Yeah.
Because it was mainly done for convenience sake. And also I read somewhere that they wanted the vibe of sort of the handheld, like sort of chaotic vibe. However,
found footage.
Yes, not necessarily found footage, but just more like it's just showing the chaos of the scene because it's not all like still. Yeah. But 28 weeks later, which is the sequel, I'm not saying is a good film. It's better than this, personally, but it has an opening. It's got Robert Carlyle in it. He played Begbie in Trainspotting, and that does the whole handheld chaotic thing well in a quality that looks good. Do you have any points, Emma? I feel like you've been quite quiet and I've been too loud. Sorry.
I haven't actually watched it, so I don't know.
No? Okay.
All I know is that it was a financial success.
So to round off my 28 Days Later rant, I think this film is really bad. You can go 28 days without watching this film. You can go 28 years without watching this film. It's just really underwhelming, poorly shot, character's bad. I don't want to get into a rant again, so I'm just going to leave it there. It's just not my kind of film, and it's just not done well. Sorry, Danny Boyle.
We return to some people's favourite time of the week, which is our quiz section, of course. Last week, it came down to the wire between Emma and Noah, but Noah just grabbed it. Well, this week, James is the quiz master, and he's got a brand new quiz for us.
So, yes, I'm in charge of the quiz this week, and this quiz I've aptly named the Peer Review. So, every question is going to feature 3 different films to choose from, and you'll have to decide which one the Letterboxd review is going to be talking about. So, you're going to have a little review that will relate to the 3 films, and you're going to have to guess which one is the correct one. So, there's a bit of guesswork, a bit of deduction. Question number 1, we're going to jump straight in. Our first Letterboxd review. The only statement this film even remotely makes is that Jimmy Fallon deserves the death penalty. So, is it Joker? Is it The King of Comedy? Or is it Jurassic World? What do you guys think? So Emma has gone for number 1.
Which would be the Joker.
That's correct. So Jimmy is also going for number 1.
Yeah.
Now he's having to think. Very tense.
I
Go
nearly
for
did
number
that.
3. Interesting. Right. So
It's probably not.
I can reveal that the answer is it's number 1. It's Joker. I went for the an easy one to start with. I thought.
Well, I thought because Jurassic World was so random, it must have been that.
It's because Jimmy Fallon appears in it briefly. And I
really?
really didn't like him, but
I remember the scene, so I knew it straight away.
right.
There you go.
Question number 2. As this one wasn't good, I dread to think what that amount of films in this franchise are like.
Oh,
Is
boy.
it The Fast and the Furious? Is it Dr. No? Or is it Friday the 13th?
See, in my mind, I had Transformers, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I also thought I thought it was going to be Fast and Furious, Transformers, and some other shite.
Noah's gone for number 3.
Yeah, let's see what Emma votes for, and then I'll make a decision.
Number 3. Number 2. Ooh, interesting. I can reveal. Number 3 is the correct answer. Friday the 13th.
It is the worst in the franchise. I wholeheartedly. Well, it's not, but it's down there.
Yeah. All right. Moving on.
Emma, you're winning. You can possibly
Yeah, Emma's winning.
muck
She's
it up
ahead
now.
by 1. only on the question, but you know. So, question
No
number
pressure,
3.
Emma.
More like Alfred Hitchcock, am I right? So is it Vertigo, Psycho, or Rear Window?
They gave it 3.5 stars and then said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a lot of those.
Number
type
3, Emma's gone with
of
Rear Window.
unfunny female reviews on.
Number
Sorry, that
1
was
is
actually a
Vertigo.
bit. Edit that bit out.
I'll have to pick one of my favourite films then.
Number
I
2,
reckon
all
Psycho.
different this time. Interesting. I can reveal. No, is right. Number 1, Vertigo.
I really liked Vertigo.
I hate Vertigo.
Number
Really?
4. Ford versus Ferrari wants what this film has. Is it Rush, Speed Racer,
Oh god, I hope not.
or Cars?
Oh,
Number 2.
I went for number 5.
Number 1 for Jimmy and number 3 for Emma.
I mean, it makes
Again,
sense.
Because it gave such a high score, I think it's got to be like Cars, because Cars is funny.
Emma is correct. It is Cars.
Oh,
It bloody is.
All right, moving on. Question number 5.
This is a
This
brilliant quiz.
cured my depression
Oh,
and brought it back in
no.
full force in the span of 2 hours.
Gotta be a
sorry.
10 times.
Before, this account's one of the worst on Letterboxd, but sorry, but carry
So
on.
mad. Right,
I
so
have a
La La
block,
Land,
so I'll never see it.
Love Actually, or Room.
Surely it
Number 1
can't be
for
Grim.
Yeah, where's the happiness in Room?
I'm trying to work it out from when the review was posted and whether
I
La La
tried
was
that as well.
Number 1 for Noah also. Number 3 for Jimmy.
I just like
It is number 1. It is La La
Oh.
Land.
Where's the happiness in Room, Jimmy?
I've not seen it.
It's depressing.
I thought it was Tommy
Number
Wiseau.
6.
No.
I want everyone to know I saw the Family Guy version of this at least 5 times before I watched this for the first time today. I'm torn over which is better. Is it Star Wars, The Shawshank Redemption, or Stand By Me?
You're such a twat, James, because you know that they've done all 3 of these.
Oh, yes, I do. Number
we'll go
2. Emma's gone with number 2. Jimmy's gone with number 2.
I'm going to stop swearing.
So,
Don't know.
number 1.
What's Stand By Me?
Well, Noah, I can reveal. You did mention it earlier. It's number 2.
Oh.
Don't think
Oh.
I'll be taking that, but-
Right. Question number 7.
Emma, it seems the more tired you are, the better you do at quizzes.
Nothing.
She is ahead, doing quite well. So, what makes her a hero is that she gets knocked down, but she gets up again. You're never going to keep her down. Is it
These are
Wonder
not
Woman?
funny, are they?
Captain Marvel or Catwoman?
That's proper. Is that
Number 1.
Chumbawamba.
It is Chumbawamba, yeah.
Do I get a bonus point?
No. Nice try, though.
I'm being Tony from The Shining. Tony.
Number 3.
I will be different again. Let's go.
Number 2, all different ones. I can reveal that Jimmy gets a point.
Oh.
Eventually.
Very nice, very
I
nice.
have that whole sequence where she gets pushed down and then she stands up a lot.
You
That's
should
a
go
big
again.
triumphant moment, apparently.
I saw this film in the cinema and I don't remember any of it.
I'm not seeing Captain
Number
Marvel.
8,
Didn't look good.
the greatest documentary that I've ever seen.
Right.
Columbine.
Is it District 9, Parasite, or Space Jam? Number 3, and number 3. Points all round, everybody. Everyone knows Space Jam's the best documentary. Okay, number 9.
Jam.
I had a dream the other night that Joe Pesci adopted me. Is it Home Alone, My Cousin Vinny, or Goodfellas?
I thought you were going to put Home Alone 1 and 2 up.
Ooh, that'd be very interesting, but I chose not to in the end.
Well, surely it has to be.
Number 1 for Jimbo. Number 1.
Tricked you, not really. No.
So, all going for Home Alone.
It's going to be Goodfellas.
Goodfellas, guys. Unfortunately, no points
look,
that
I
round.
had it all along.
Alright, number 10.
With the trick of the light.
Priority number 1, protect the cat. Is it Alien, Pet Cemetery, or A Street Cat Named Bob?
I flipping hate that last film.
Never seen it.
Number 1 for Noah.
I had to see that with an ex-girlfriend and I have bad memories of it. I'm waiting for you to vote, Emma, so you can't copy my answer.
Number 2 and number 1. The answer is, it is indeed Alien.
Yeah, it's really
So, Jimmy and Noah.
What are the
There's not much in
score
it.
are
He was
they?
leading by 1 point. So, could all go wrong.
But I get
Fingers
up again.
crossed, eh?
Something's ever
Number
gonna-
11. My favourite superhero origin story. Is it Carrie, Matilda, or Hancock? Number 1 for Emma. Number 2 for Noah. Jimmy's thinking. Number 3 for Jimmy. Interesting.
I just like to be different. Like I said.
Yeah. You should stop. Noah wins that round.
Really?
Alright. Number
Ow.
12. Continue on. I kept falling asleep and then waking up to flashing lights and synth music. I don't know what was happening. So, is it Blade Runner? Is it Thor Ragnarok? Or is it the Neon Demon?
Have you seen the neon?
A
Noah
movie
classic, that one.
synonymous. A movie synonymous with
Number
me.
1 for Emma. Number 1 for Noah.
I'm so far behind on the points, I have to go for something different. Just in hope.
No.
Number 3 for Jimmy. Jimmy, you need to learn from your mistakes. It's the first one. Blade Runner. Alright,
Jimmy, you've really lost it.
I dropped the ball.
moving on. As much as I love this film, I truly couldn't be happier with the knowledge that my mum has never seen it.
Oh, I think.
A Clockwork Orange, Blue Velvet, or Mother.
That was not what I thought
It's
was going
quite a tough one.
That is quite hard.
Number
Fine.
3.
No,
Number
Emma's
2.
just picking the same one as me.
Number 3.
I've seen Mother next to my mother,
Right.
and I thought, no.
You thought no. Well, you can also think no because you're all wrong. It's
No.
wow. Even
Yeah.
when I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You're
Funny
wrong,
that,
wrong,
innit?
wrong.
Right. Question number 14. Penultimate question.
Am I still
Water is evil. Is it Jaws, Titanic, or Finding Nemo? Number 2 for Jimmy. Number 3 for Emma.
I think by the logic of there's a 1 in 3 chance of getting
Number
it,
2 for Noah. I can reveal.
I have to get one right eventually.
Your time has come, Jimmy. Well done.
Yay, that takes me out of the lead, doesn't it?
It does, but if you get this one, it'll end up as a tie. So, Jimmy,
No, wait.
you don't really have a chance of winning, but you can try anyway. It's
That's
the
my
final
ultimate
question of the 4 Struggling Filmmakers quiz of this episode. I mean, it wasn't good as Shrek 2, but it was okay. 12 Angry Men, The Godfather, Citizen Kane, last.
Oh,
Number 3 for Emma.
You're such a shit, James. You've made this quiz amazing.
I think it would be funny if it was Citizen Kane, seeing as that's such a
Yeah, I agree, Emma.
remarkable film.
All right.
If it was
So
that,
we got
it'd be funny.
number three, and
Number 5.
number 2.
Number two.
All right. So I can reveal the answer is. I mean, Jimmy's wrong again. It's number 3.
Is that a tie?
I can reveal the scores. In last place we have Mr. Jimmy Bennett.
Somebody has to
A
lose.
valiant effort, but he needs to learn from his patterns. In second place, it's Emma, trailing by 1 point. I'm so sorry, you were doing so well, but again, this week's winner, Mr. Noah, with 9 whole points.
Winner's sport, so unlucky, Emma. There you go. That's all I have to say.
Well, Noah wins by 1 point again. But don't worry, guys. Emma's time will come eventually. But until it happens, you guys continue to stay safe. We'll continue to struggle. That's it, really, isn't it?
We've been
Yeah.
for Struggling Filmmakers.
Hey!
It was trying to match that of the Revenant's hill.
I tell you what, whatever Hugh Glass was going through being killed by that bear, I was going through worse, believe me.